Okay, and we're live. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today for yet another episode of Breaking into PM with the product folks. Today, we have with us Keshav Sharma, who's currently a product manager with VMware. He's had an interesting trajectory. He's finished his undergrad from the University of Wisconsin in computer science and has also had a bunch of PM internships. So today we'll be chatting with him about his experience of product management in the US, his internships, his journey about breaking into product, a day in the life of a junior PM, and how his experience overall has been in the Bay Area. So hope you guys are as excited. I'll just give you guys a brief intro into the community as well. The Product Folks is a volunteer-driven community of product managers and enthusiasts. We have a bunch of resources, Learn PM with.me, which is a curated set of online resources to help you upskill into the field of product management. We have Insurjo.club, which is an APM program. And yeah, a bunch of online initiatives where we connect with product managers and senior product managers to understand their journeys. So without further ado, Keshav, do you just want to share with us a small TLDR into your life story?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me on this podcast come webinar. Like you mentioned, right, I did my schooling until grade 12 in India, in Hyderabad. After that, moved to the University of Wisconsin at Madison in America to do my undergrad in computer science. I think around the end of my second year in college, I had a brief idea that probably coding was not something I wanted to pursue further along. And the operating systems class right after in the following semester confirmed that assumption that I had. Did a couple of internships during my undergrad and college, worked on a couple of side projects and products, ended up doing 2 p.m. internships, and yeah, came back to Pivotal full time upon graduation, which was then later acquired by VMware. So I'm working with VMware right now.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So before we jump into your PM journey, just would like to understand how your experience of, the student life has been in India since you were here till the 12th and then your undergrad there. So what would you put as some key differentiators, something that you like here, something that you like there? What's it been like for you?
Yeah, for sure. So just a little more background. I did my schooling until grade 10 in the ICSE board and then CBSE for grades 11 and 12. One of the biggest differences I noticed, at least in the first few classes at university, comparing it back to the way classes were held in India, we used to have around 5 hours or 6 hours of classes the entire week in college, compared to 7 hours of classes per day in India. So a lot of the work which was taught in university, it was led by the students themselves. So the instructors would definitely introduce a chapter to you, but it did not mean that they would go through every page in the textbook to explain every minute detail. It was up to you to take the initiative of understanding the concept that you did not understand and reach out to the teaching assistants and clarify all the doubts that you had. The other key differentiator I felt was a lot of the grading, the way grading is done in American universities and schools as well, I believe. It's cut out throughout the entire year. So instead of having, say, 80% of your grade depend on your final exam as it is done in India, here we have weekly assignments and quizzes. That, in a way, enables you to prepare more regularly and frequently. And ultimately, at the end of the year, you're only left with 1 or 2 chapters to run through before your final exam. So yeah, it's a lot more consistent and regular flow of work rather than all the work being crammed out and focused towards the final project or final exam that you would be taking. Yeah.
Fair point, fair point. And do you think with the advent of, a lot more online education these days, do you see something like that changing in India, or do you think it is something that stems from the grassroots? Like you mentioned, school as well in the US comes in that system.
Right. Yeah. So I think even in university, me along with almost everyone that I know of studying computer science, we refer to a lot of online resources. Stack Overflow. I think many people jokingly talk that without Stack Overflow, I probably wouldn't graduate out of college. And yeah, online videos on YouTube, all these free resources that you have at your disposal, I don't think anything compares to the level of quality of that. Talking
Nice.
about the way that university programs are structured, that I think is more of an organizational aspect to it, where I think it, like you said, it probably stems from the grassroots. It's just a cultural thing which might have to change over time, and you just need to pull the plug on that. So yeah. Mhm.
Fair point. Fair point. Thanks so much for sharing that. Jumping right into the meaty bits now, more about, say, the university. Did you really study something related to product back then? Especially since you mentioned, you'd made up your mind, okay, I don't want to get into core computer science engineering, but okay, I'm interested in product. So that's how you got interested in product management. What did you do next? How did you, upskill
Mhm.
yourself into this field?
Right. Yeah. So at the end of my first year in college, I did a software engineering internship. Following that, I ended up taking the machine learning course on Coursera, which was really popular, and started mentoring that. Following semester, I was invited as a global mentor for that. But I started noticing that most of the core concepts of computer science, while they fascinated me, it wasn't something I really enjoyed doing on a day-to-day basis, writing code. And that prompted me to explore other things and other fields relevant to computer science. I did take a couple of business courses, but business and marketing were too divorced of technology, and technology was something which I inherently liked, not so much the coding aspect of it. I think through that, got introduced to a couple of design articles and blogs, started learning how user experience and user interface design happens in mobile apps. And yeah, just reached out to people, found out something called product management, which literally lies in the intersection of design, engineering, and business. Reached out to a lot of people regarding that, found out that, okay, this might be something that I'm interested in. Yeah, applied a bunch, and then finally interned as a remote PM intern. I think was my first experience with the startup in New York. Yeah.
Got it. How was that experience, remote PMing, especially when, you're just starting off? What was your role
Right,
like? What
right.
did you do?
Uh-huh. It was definitely not the most ideal scenario, but I would say that was the minimum viable product approach over here. Just getting whatever was available at that time. And yeah, I literally just cold messaged every bunch of people on LinkedIn. And yeah, there was one startup in New York which was willing to offer this remote PM opportunity. I was like, sure, it's mid-semester, classes are busy, but I'll just try this out and see what's the worst that could happen. I probably figure out that product is also not something I'm interested in.
Correct.
There was a lot of on-call coordination that was required, not too different from what all of us are doing today in
Yeah.
working from home. So yeah, that if anything just helped me prepare for this a bit more.
Awesome. 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 And how was your interview experience like, especially when you are breaking into PM? Did you prepare on your own? Was the interview, how was it, how was the entire experience like?
Yeah. So for my first remote PM internship, the interview process wasn't as rigorous, to be honest. But the following internship that I did with Pivotal, it was quite a rigorous process, I would say, the interview process at least. You had your standard rounds where they wanted to know if you understand the technology, you understand the business of the company, and you can actually go through the day in a life of a PM intern where you're evaluating the current product, prioritizing features that you come up with and ideate, and are then finally able to create a roadmap and validate all your opinions with strong evidence. So yeah, we had around, I think, 2 or 3 rounds for the PM
Mm-hmm.
internship,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a design round, the regular behavioral round,
Mm-hmm.
had a take-home case study sort of,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then an in-person exercise or role
Okay.
play. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And how did you prepare for these? Is it just online materials? Any resources that you'd like to share?
Right. Yeah. So what I noticed was, so before this, I did do another PM internship interview, and I really completely bombed that. I wasn't quite prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
That prompted me to look deeper into and preparing further well for the following up interviews that I had scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of the basic books, right, which I feel many people on the call are already aware of. You're cracking the coding into, cracking the PM interview
Yeah.
rather.
Yeah.
You've got Decode and Conquer, you have the other Lewis Lynn books. So I think the information is out there. There isn't really any secret recipe of sorts that if you just read this book, you're going to get the interview or get the internship or full-time job you're looking for. It's more of how well you scale up your quality of responses
Mm-hmm.
and how often and how frequently you practice these mock interview sessions that you have. Yeah, the information is in the book, but that doesn't make any difference to you personally unless you're actually able to contextualize that in the form that the interview is looking for, unless you completely understand what the company is looking for that you're interviewing with and how they personally approach product. So it's a lot of mix and match that you need to do instead of just going through a list of 10 books. It's a lot more of hands-on, doing mock interview sessions and repeating yourself, recording
Mhm.
yourself, if anything, to play back the video or audio and see, okay, what were the fine points where you could improve. And yeah, I think a lot of your interview experience would depend on who you practice these interview sessions with, how frequently you practice them, and what methods are you using to reflect back on your mock interview sessions. Yeah.
Great points. I think that's a fantastic point, that resources are out there today, but you need to just practice. That is super important. How did you go about finding these mock sessions? Were it like a bunch of you guys who were looking to transition doing it together? Did you reach out cold? How does one go about that?
Yeah. So there are a lot of online Slack communities which are centered around the fact of people wanting to interview and practice for PM interviews. So yeah, I think Lewis Lynn himself has a Slack community.
Hmm.
I'm not sure of the exact URL at this point,
No
but any
worries.
Google that you should be able to find it. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And just to give it a number, how many would you have practiced over, that period where you were looking to transition?
Yeah, so I think I did not practice as many as I think I should have, but things just worked out well. But looking
Okay.
back, I would say you should probably do at least 50, around 50 mock sessions to be confident entering the room. Uh,
That's,
like the first few sessions that you do, you're just, applying the same circles method,
yep.
which everyone is trying to do. And it's very obvious to the interview that you're trying to do that.
Mhm.
I guess the next few sessions you're trying to do, you're more focusing on what the interviewer is asking you and trying to
Mhm.
curate your answer towards that. And as and when you get more comfortable with this format of interviewing, the more comfortable you get by coming up with your own frameworks and not even relying on those frameworks, just keeping them at the back of your mind. And that's
Cool.
probably a stage you want to reach repetitively before your actual interview.
Got it. I think that's a great point. But yeah, good that you put a number to this. And I think 50 is a great number. If someone can really touch that, I think you're well prepared to crack at least an
Yeah.
interview, at least a starting point for sure. Yeah, I'm thinking, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, moving on to the current opportunity you are at. How did you break into VMware? I think you mentioned that it got acquired. So was it through Pivotal Labs that you automatically moved into VMware?
Yeah. So I interned at Pivotal, and Pivotal has two parts to it. It has a cloud computing platform called the Pivotal Platform, now called
Mm-hmm.
as the Tanzu platform from VMware,
Mm-hmm.
and it has got Pivotal Labs. So both of these parts of Pivotal were acquired by VMware, and I came in as a part of the acquisition after graduating.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I think, yeah, during my internship with
Mm-hmm.
Pivotal, it was a very design heavy uh, product that I was working with. And when I say design, it's not so much the user interface, it's more so the information architecture. What
Mm-hmm.
does the user flow look like
Mm-hmm.
for reaching from page A to page D? What
Mm-hmm.
steps does the user need to take through that? And yeah, these things, although it might not be too obvious at first that these are design heavy, everything is rooted in design practices and research methods. So the internship experience was quite design heavy, worked with two designers on the team and a couple of engineers as well, did a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of usability testing and prioritization, came up with proposals as well. And yeah, moving forward now, I have been a part of two different teams, one which is a pretty mature product, had existing users, and the team that I'm a part of right now is a much younger team. We don't even have a product that has GA'd yet. We would be
Mm-hmm.
taking we would be taking the product GA in 2 months or so. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
quite a different variety of experiences that way.
Correct. Correct. And how has your experience been on both the teams? What are some key takeaways for you in terms of personal growth, or your activities that you do day to day in these two roles? How does that differ?
Right. So I would say, again, right, at the core, you're trying to achieve the same outcome, which is building something that users like.
Mm-hmm.
But the constraints that you're dealing with and the approaches that you're taking are quite different.
Right.
So the approach that we had to take in the internship was a lot more focused on gathering user input
Hmm.
at a huge scale, and then synthesizing that into buckets and then sorting those and prioritizing those. Talking about the mature product that I was a part of after coming back full time, the focus of the team was to deliver sufficient outcomes to the users without releasing as many new features, without increasing the investments in the product. So
Hmm.
there we were dealing with constraints such as team size. How do we reduce the number of support cases that we receive from customers on this? What are few metrics or logs we can expose to the users, referring which uh, the peripheral teams within the company more broadly are lesser impacted when something breaks down. Now, moving forward with the current team that I'm a part of, which is quite young, we have grown. We have gotten in 2 or 3 new engineers. The team size is growing. We are making beta releases to verify and validate the assumptions we have, sending out features. So it's quite different. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Sounds exciting, and hope you're having fun there.
Yeah.
Um, Another interesting point is a lot of our audience today is from India, and since you're based out of the Bay Area, you studied there, now you're working there with a pretty large organization. What are some things that excite you about the ecosystem in general and product management in general in the Bay Area?
Yeah. So I can compare product management in the Bay Area to Madison, Wisconsin, and I don't think I can talk a lot about India given that the past
Yeah.
few years I've been working here.
Hmm.
So I would say it's more of a norm in the Bay Area to have a product manager on your team than it is the other way around. There are a lot more product events that are held in the Bay Area. I think if you scroll through Eventbrite, you have one or the other product event happening almost every week. And over here, you have speakers coming in from different backgrounds. You have speakers coming in from large organizations, young startups.
Hmm.
So there is a lot of density as to people who are interested in products, software development,
Hmm.
entrepreneurship in this particular region of the country. And yeah, you also have a lot of companies and products that you probably interact with on a day-to-day basis in a close vicinity. So I think near my personal office right now, we have got Snapchat working on the floor above, Slack and Eventbrite are just a few blocks away, and we've got Yahoo across the street as well. So it's you get to see all these companies, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're in this together, sort of. But I would say the downside of that is that you're probably a bit tunnel vision, right? All you're thinking of and seeing around yourself is technology, product design.
Yeah.
There isn't as much population, if you want to call it, of people
Mm.
who are outside of the software development field directly or indirectly. So you would see far less people in the humanities sector. You would see far less people in music or art and things of
Hmm.
that sort. Yeah.
Got it. So does it feel like you're living in a bubble, but it's still exciting because it's something that you like?
It is quite exciting. I think almost again every week I see 1 or 2 cars who are testing out their automated driving
Right.
system on the streets late in the night. So that's quite exciting. But I don't know if it's a bubble or not. I guess time will tell. It's if it's a
Yeah.
bubble, but it is quite
Yeah.
exciting.
Got it. Got it. And on that lines, like you mentioned, okay, a lot of these startups that you mentioned are more consumer focused, but I think VMware is more on B2B, right? So what
Mhm.
exactly about B2B excites you, and what are your thoughts on the domain that you've
Yeah,
probably
I
entered?
think that's a good point. So during my internships, right, I did not have any strong opinion on what B2B would be like and what it's not. Through the internship, what I learned by also talking to other friends of mine who were PMs at a more consumer-facing company, the practices that you follow in developing a product are quite similar.
Mm-hmm.
You are still releasing minimum viable products. You are still working with design teams and engineers to validate assumptions and build features rapidly. It's just that the approaches that you take to reach that outcome are quite different.
Mm-hmm.
So a consumer-facing company or product would be more driven by marketing, whereas in a B2B company, it's more driven by sales. So the cross-functional teams that you interact with and deal with are slightly different, but at the core, it's almost the same thing. And also, yeah, I had a chance to attend a couple of events in the Bay Area focused towards the B2B industry. And it was quite interesting to learn that most of the big companies that you're aware of today, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all of them have started quietly this whole B2B sector where they're focusing on cloud computing.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Amazon retail for B2B companies as well, which is expected to grow through around 31 billion in revenue in the next
Wow.
3 or 4 years, which is superseding the consumer facing retail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and also, I don't know if a lot of people are aware of Y Combinator. It's one of the most popular seed accelerators in the Bay Area,
Right.
where they fund really early stage startups, get a bunch of them in a room and see where they go from there. A couple of last years as well, the Y Combinator incoming class has been dominated by B2B startups. So there
Wow.
is a general shift towards the industry realizing that there are legitimate gaps in the B2B industry which need some filling, because of which we are noticing these incoming younger companies trying to fill in those.
Nice. That's interesting. I think those are interesting insights. And yeah, just one question that we'd pick up, probably the last one, is from Kaushik, who asks, any tips that you have for people who are looking to shift into PM, and specifically on, tech versus business, any tech resources, and say someone who's from technical, how does he pick up business resources? Anything that you like to share with them?
Yeah, so there are a couple of, so it really depends what kind of shift you're trying to make. If you're trying to make a shift within the same company, you would be aware of, or you could get a hold of someone who is aware of the business aspect of the company. If you're trying to make a shift into product at a different company, I would say that's slightly tougher and slightly less common, given that you probably don't have a lot of product experience beforehand. I'm assuming again, since you're working in engineering. But something that you should probably focus on and try to do more of is get hands-on experience by writing your own case studies and publishing them on LinkedIn, or working on side projects. Books are a good tool for you to gather the basics, but personally, I haven't found them quite helpful beyond that. Product by itself is a very contextual and gray area to focus on and solve for. And books are more so black and white. They give you black and white answers like you should be doing this and you should not be doing that. Whereas in reality, the answer really lies in the middle of yes and no. Yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And yeah, I think it's been fantastic chatting with you, understanding life in the Bay Area, understanding how you moved into product, and I hope everyone here was able to pick up something great. Keshav, what would be the best way folks can get in touch with you probably after this call in case they just want to chat up?
Sure, I can drop my LinkedIn in
That'll be
the
great.
Zoom chat if that's helpful.
Awesome. So Kesha will probably put it up in the chat section in case you guys have any things that you want to follow up with him, or anything that you want to brainstorm with him about your product or getting into product management. Feel free to reach out to him on LinkedIn. He shared his ID in the chat section. So thanks once again, Keshav. I think it was great chatting with you, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Keshav, if you want to leave us with any closing remarks before we just close this call.
Yeah, no, thanks for attending this, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions you might have on LinkedIn. I think I've already received a few requests and I'll be
Awesome.
accepting all of them. And yeah, feel free to message me with any questions.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much again, Keshav. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and hope to catch you guys in the next episode. See you.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye bye.